Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. Here's myself, George, joined once more by Tate for not a very special review, but a review of kinds. We are, of course, here talking today about the Disney's Pinocchio 2022 version. Tate, I'm going to put it on the spot.
Yeah.
So when I was doing the header for this, we put the years in the video,
Yeah.
not even description. I put Pinocchio 2022, and I was like, hold on. There's another Pinocchio with a 2020 release date coming in a few weeks, indeed. So I've called this Disney's Pinocchio on our stream. I didn't want to go all film school and put Robert Zemeckis : 2022. That's just a bit weird. But it's directed by Robert Zemeckis. But before we actually get into the film, into any of that stuff, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I'll go ahead and just spoil something after watching this film. Not good. This film was trash. This film's awful.
Yeah.
there's your review right there. Like, this is a terrifyingly bad film, and I'm ready to discuss it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. We haven't actually written a plan. We'll probably do what we always do. We'll talk about behind the scenes, all that sort of stuff. We've got Martin in the comments alongside Derpy Gaming as well. And if you have seen the film, comment below your thoughts on Pinocchio. We want to hear them. Maybe you're a fan of Disney. Maybe looking forward to D23. It is D23 this weekend. We want to hear your thoughts on all of that sort of stuff. And if you are a fan, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. There are going to be more Disney live action remakes, but if I'm going to be nicer and say there's going to probably be a video on D23 on Sunday, time's not confirmed, it will be to do any big announcements that come at the live action panel tomorrow night. So maybe if you're a fan of Disney and you want some of that D23 detail. But Tate, where can the people find us? Because this video was very late notice today. I literally texted you at you texted me saying you watched it on your lunch, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do the same today. So I'll watch it too. So I watched it straight after I finished work today, and yeah, so where can people find out about these last-minute videos and where we announce them?
So people can find us about our impromptu videos on Twitter and Instagram, at cinema_savvy. You can also find us on Facebook and Letterboxd. Just type in Cinema Savvy as well. Or you can go to our Redbubble store where you can pick up a t-shirt or pick up any merch to help out the channel.
Definitely. So everybody, please do that. And as we said, we are here, of course, talking Pinocchio. And I think what I want to kind of kickstart with is because we talk about heading into these films. Maybe there's hype, maybe there's not. Maybe for this one, it's a politer term of what's your sort of thoughts on the whole Disney rebooting every animated film, that sort of trend that's become such an awkward trend now, I think, as well.
Every now and then, Disney will do a film which is a live-action remake to their previous films, and it'll be okay. It'll be good. Cinderella is kind of the main example that goes in there. Do you know what? I quite liked Cruella, which was last year, right? Yeah. I really enjoyed that. But then other times what they do is they suck the soul out of the film that they're trying to portray. The film which they made magical in the first place just seems to lose all of its magic through kind of modern-day references to things, through different guests and voice stars and stuff like that, different people playing these different roles, and it just doesn't pay off. They're looking for the names, they're looking for people to go and watch the film without actually making the film watchable, is the best way of putting it. And they've been on a really bad run recently. Like, there's been a few films in a row where people have either downright absolutely hated it, or it's just been just straight up bad, terrible, badly made. And this is kind of the point where a lot of people will jump off, I feel. If it hadn't been done before, this is the one where every single person so far, from what I've seen of other people reviewing this film, have all had a shared disliking of this. And I think the foot's coming down. I think people are saying enough is enough. And I mean, hopefully it puts an end to the trend, because I'm not the biggest fan of it anyway. Like, there's a time and a place to do kind of readaptations of materials, but when your own company is going through its own library and reimagining it to be live action, and they're not putting any effort into these productions, it loses its charm. It makes the original films not as magical, because you're like, well, there's two versions of this film now. Any kind of the nostalgia that people have for the original is going to dissipate when they see this film. It's just, it's soul sucking. It's exactly what it does. It's bad.
It's interesting because I'm sort of following up your process. I've always been in the camp that, no, I don't mind them. When this trend began, I was far more on the opposing side of, I'm curious to see a lot of these films. I think, as you mentioned, Cruella is probably a perfect one because it wasn't really a remake. Yes, it's Cruella and it's Disney, but what's happened now, it's become so much of a faff trend that when a genuine director or writer comes on and says, I would love to tell this story, maybe it's these characters, Disney's just in to say, yes, you're in. Whereas now it's like, it's not, oh, who's going to come to us and do a film? Now it's what's next? What's the next one? And it's really starting to backfire. Again, Cruella's its own special thing. I love that film. I think that would have worked if there wasn't this big Disney trend. I think they'd have made that film still with the cast they have. Obviously, doing a sequel now. I'm a massive fan of the Jungle Book adaptation. I know some people weren't somewhere. That for me was Jon Favreau's come on board. He's developing this new technology, and that's him saying, I want to tell this story. And obviously we knew if that was always, we said this on the channel all the time, if Jungle Book was successful, they'd do the Lion King straight away. Yeah. And I think that was the first sign we had. I don't mind that Lion King one. And what's interesting, it's been about 3 years now. A lot of kids, that's their Lion King. And I knew that would happen. And I don't have a problem with that because I do think the photorealistic stuff is an incredible technology, but I do understand the issues. Jumping into Pinocchio, again, there's been so many others. Not Beauty and the Beast. There has been Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
again, that was a mega one.
You had Mulan, which had other issues, should we say, with the film.
Yeah.
Lady and the Tramp got shoved onto Disney Plus and no one watched it.
When it launched. I actually did watch it, And you know what? It wasn't that bad, but it was sort of like, what's the point? And that's what I'm going to say today. What's the point, Pinocchio?
And it's a very interesting one because Pinocchio has been a IP that's been in the public domain for quite a while now. So there's been multiple different adaptations, and Disney's one is one of many. It's a good adaptation, the original. But we've got another one coming out this year, done by Guillermo Del Toro, which, for all intents and purposes, it's doing the festival circuit, is looking pretty good. We'll probably pick up awards, possibly up for Best Animated Feature. Other awards that it may also be up for, it may expand past that category. You never know. As Guillermo Del Toro, he tends to do well at these events. This one, it's done by Robert Zemeckis, who previously had a good track record. And when I say previously, I meant the Back to the Future trilogy, and we're looking at Who Framed Roger Rabbit, even heading into the early 2000s with films like Castaway. And then there's a bad stretch. And we were discussing this beforehand and looking at, has he actually made a good film since Castaway? And The Walk is a good film, which was about the man who went between the two towers, the Twin Towers in New York, on a wire doing a balancing act. Past that, it's just kind of...
I mean, The Witch is from 2 years ago. Ironically, I actually watched that film, but that has been part of HBO Max's, we're deleting this film from existence, and The Witches is one of them. When it was announced that there's going to be a Roald Dahl adaptation of The Witches by Robert Zemeckis, I remember being like, this could be really cool. You had, Anne Hathaway in the lead role.
Yeah.
And it just, I remember when the trailer was like, oh God, this is bad. Like, how was Robert Zemeckis end up with this? Why is The Witches being done like this? Even though we're getting Matilda next month at the festival, which looks amazing. It's the musical version.
I was going to say that's based off the musical by Tim Minchin.
Yeah, and
it's kind of based off the Roald Dahl book anyway. So
and this is the thing, like with Roald Dahl, I think he's culture at this level with British heritage hierarchy and whatnot. Not that it's hard to get an adaptation wrong, but in this day and age, it really should be for a Roald Dahl book. And his estate are normally quite tight with that sort of thing. So it surprised me, The Witch is how, again, now it's deleted from existence. It can't legally be seen unless you own it via other means or bought the Blu-ray for the 3 people that did. But Zemeckis is interesting because again, when they announced Pinocchio, I was just going into my thoughts on this. Yes, it was like this had been in production hell for ages. Like Robert Downey Jr. was attached to it for ages. He wanted to do a Pinocchio story. I'm glad you mentioned Del Toro. Obviously, Pinocchio is a book. It's in the public domain. Anyone can do a Pinocchio thing. And this is what confuses me with Disney. Well, it's not confusing. It's just stupid. But when they announce these live-action reboots, why don't you just do a live-action film of the book that you're adapting that's in the public domain? Why do you need to remake your animated film? And Dumbo was a really interesting one because I think I remember on the Dumbo review, I said that at times it's a Disney film that's trapped in a Tim Burton film, and at other time it's Tim Burton trapped in a Disney cycle. And for whatever reason, it should have just been a complete Tim Burton film, or it should have just been a complete Disney animated ripoff.
I was going to say,
and that's what Pinocchio is.
Yeah,
Pinocchio is. I'm just going to say soulless. I text it to you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give my initials. This film is one of the most disturbing things I've seen in a long time, and one of the mighty reasons of that is genuinely because there is no. When a director comes, when you have sometimes you have terrible films, and maybe the directors got it wrong. They just don't know. They might be inexperienced. They might have gone in the background. They might not be ready to do a film. This film reeks of corporate attitude. And a lot of films are corporate. Do not get me wrong. A lot of films get greenlit that are corporate. Hey, and some of them are great. But this is like that low level, like rotten stench corporate film that, oh, it's going to be on Disney Plus. It's going to come out on Disney Plus Day because Disney Plus Day is for us to market D23 that starts obviously today. And, you know, they delayed the Kenobi documentary for Disney Plus Day. They delayed the Thor Assembled to D Plus Day. Cars has a sequel spin-off miniseries for some reason. And everything that's dropping, and then it's Pinocchio. And like this should be the priority of the day, but it's not. And I think watching this today was actually, you know, I would say it's quite sad because I love, like, I've spoke to, I mean, a preview for a film in a few weeks, me and Tate reviewed, we spoke about Tintin a lot, and I spoke a lot about, you know, there's the technology they're trying to develop, they're trying to push forward and you know, break new ground. And this is what, like, sickens me with films like this. They're not even trying anymore. It's like, here's like an almost rendered Disney film that we're just going to release on the site for the same day because it honestly looks terrible. When I say it looks terrible, it looks like they've released a half-made film on their streams. And I don't normally go in for films, by the way. People think I'm moaning. I don't normally go in on films. But watching this today, you know, I've got a good setup. I know, you know, watching it properly as well. Some people watch like compressed 480p downloads and stuff and pretend that they've got judgment on it, but it's just silly. But watching this was just quite awful in truth. I mean, the embarrassment of like having Tom Hanks in this film. I don't know why he's involved in this. I don't know why he's brought Zemeckis on board for this. It never. There's an amazing review from Letterboxd that's gone viral. Sorry, I'll let you speak in a second.
Yeah.
It's 1.5 stars. And it went viral. Obviously, a lot of things happened yesterday on the news. I'm not going to get into obviously some of that, but this is the 1.5 star review that's gone viral. Bear with me, it's right at the top of the page. The second film of the year where Tom Hanks plays a European caricature alongside an exploited puppet. That 2 lines was more entertaining than Pinocchio, and I love the Elvis film. The Elvis film's great, but that is a wonderful review, and the film doesn't deserve that.
No. And what's fascinating is your kind of point on it being half finished, because it was the first thing I picked up on when I messaged you. I was like, the CGI is really bad in this film, like straight away. From the introduction to Jiminy Cricket to Pinocchio himself, who is awful. The movement of his character on the screen it's so off. And then the interactions with the environment around them, every single set doesn't feel real. Like the water wasn't real, the fecking animals, the pets weren't even real for this film. So it wasn't even like a proper blend. It's like the only character who was actually live action or was Tom Hanks and maybe a couple of others throughout the entire film. It just felt like it was rushed. And it for a film that's been in production hell for so long, how can a film like this be so kind of hastily put together and just flung out? And it's fascinating because they make changes to the story. We're not going to go into the changes they make to the story, but it's just a weird.
It's not a hard story to tell, is it?
It's not really not.
And it's tough because you mentioned Zemeckis. Sorry, we can hear someone's dogs barking next door. You mentioned Robert Zemeckis. You know, we know he's capable. And has he come on last minute? Was he never interested? Did he do it as a favor for his friend Tom Hanks? It just feels like a backward step in everything about it. It feels like I'm watching like an early noughties CGI film. Like, you know how people like Pan Lucas's prequels, oh look, the green screen's really obvious. This is like you went on After Effects, like chroma keyed out the green, and you just like use like textures, because when you're on like Pinocchio's face, and this is what's really annoying me, because again, you know, say what about Jungle Book and Lion King, the Lion King looks good. From a visual standpoint, it cannot be faulted. From a technical standpoint, it can't. Of course, it is the story and the consciousness behind making it. You have Pinocchio, which is a wooden puppet, and he looks like a plastic toy that's been 3D printed, made in China.
It looks like, it's weird. It's like Disney made a bootleg film. It's
yes. It doesn't look professional though. It just doesn't look like a really professional film. And even like Tom Hanks being involved, I'm just sort of there. Like, this sort of annoys me. I can't find the budget for this film, and I really want to know what the budget.
Oh, I really want to know as well now,
because you know, it shouldn't. I bet you it's like 100 mil. And obviously, we'll never, because when it's a streaming service, you never get audience figures. You can only get American viewing data like 3 weeks after. But everything about this feels wrong. Even like some of the voice cast. I mean, one person want to give a negative. We both said Cynthia Erivo. She's in for like 2 minutes. She's pretty great. I actually feel she's wasted.
She sings one song and then disappears. And it's fascinating because her character in the original film is all the way throughout the original film, or at least the Disney original film. You can't like be chopping and changing. It feels like they were like, oh, we need someone to play the Blue Fairy. Okay, we'll get Cynthia Erivo. Okay, brilliant. How long have we got you? You've got me for 1 day. Okay, we're gonna have to just film this one scene with you. We'll put you into the film. You're done, and then you can go off and do other projects. It's just one of the things that I want to kind of heavily note on as well. And this is something that's been a kind of a big thing with Disney recently, and a lot of the films that Disney have brought out, whether it's their animated department or whether it is their live action department. And funnily enough, Pixar hasn't treaded down that road too much. Pixar is still kind of the gold standard with most of their films for subtly getting a message across, shall we say. The original Pinocchio film did a good enough job of like, Pinocchio, you need to kind of like figure out what's right and what's wrong. You need to be able to kind of like make decisions on your own to become a real boy and kind of experience different things in life. This film shoves the message so far down our throats from minute one. Like, what it's like, it's been made for like 3 or 4 year olds, which I would be okay with if it didn't have like the adult theme still running throughout the film. It's just such a wild kind of tonal whiplash that's thrown into the film.
Do you think kids would enjoy this? I don't think they would.
No. So I've seen one of the first comments that you see on Reddit reviews and stuff like that. I was trying to remember which website because I've gone through loads of different reviews today. Was that a parent saying the kids fell asleep in the opening 10 minutes? It's not
the way it starts. Yeah, like the opening scene. It's like we're not even introduced really to the characters. Like, here's my life. I want a son. I have a son. It's Pinocchio. He's born. He's gone.
Yeah,
and it's like, what? Like, you're not given us time to meet characters or put the story into motion. It begins as it begins, and it's 1 hour 50. It's not short either, and that's where I feel that
it's really interesting because like Robert Zemeckis and Chris Weitz are brilliant storytellers. Like, Rogue One is a fantastic film with a great story behind it. Chris Weitz wrote that film, and then Robert Zemeckis has done fantastic journeys with the films that he's written. He's possibly a better writer than he is a director, I would say. The films that he's been attached to over the years, working with Spielberg, working with Scorsese, just everything he's done throughout his entire career, it's been phenomenal. But with this film, it just seems to be so wrong. And it's weird. You have the source material right there. It's Disney's own property. So how have they got it so wrong? And how have they got everything from this film so just completely stretched out? One other point that I want to make, probably my final biggest grief of this film, is with the voice acting as well. Once again, and I've been saying this a lot about animated films recently, live action films, whatever. If you've got animated characters, please bring in voice actors. Don't bring in celebrity voice actors to do the work, because it's drawing in people using names, and it really does show. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, as much as I love him in a lot of his film roles, disappeared into his role as Jiminy Cricket, and not in a good way. He was absolutely vacant in his role on the screen. And same with a lot of the other kind of cast members throughout the film who were voiced over and played those roles. It just felt so bland, and there was no energy put into it, and just off. And I don't know if that's because we've got the original Pinocchio to compare to, but if you're Disney, don't put yourself in a position where you have to compare yourself to a masterpiece. If you're going to be remaking these films, you should be starting with the ones that aren't so good, the ones which actually need remaking, instead of going, this is one of our best films of all time, like When You Wish Upon a Star, with the whole Oscar and the song and stuff like that being a fantastic thing. Let's really push that. And then it's like, do you know what? We're going to remake that film. We're going to try and do it, and they just got it wrong in every single way.
And the thing is, they're not backing it by putting it on Disney Plus. The Little Mermaid, we're probably going to get a trailer tomorrow, but they've spent years working on that film. That was shot practically on location, big casting announcements. That's something we know, but it's not just going to be big. but you can tell, okay, Disney probably know that's going to be a hit. We got Snow White, which is, I think, wraps now, which was Maria from West Side Story playing her. That same thing, practical sets, environments shown properly. Whereas this feels like it's been probably shot in a studio. Apparently, it took like a month filming, which is a terrible sign for a big budget film. A Pinocchio film should be big. Then is there also the background? Do they know that Guillermo had one in production? Do they think, oh guys, like we're not going to be able to?
There's always a Pinocchio film in production.
There was one like 2-3 years ago, wasn't there? Like, was it
one,
foreign? Was it Italian?
There was one made by the year after he won the Oscar
during COVID.
Life is Beautiful. What's his name? Because he made one again recently, didn't he? He went back to it.
Someone did one recently because they I think it was nominated for an Oscar for like visual effects because it was like a kid wearing the mask, which was incredible.
Roberto Benigni.
That's it, and this is where I kind of feel this. It's just so lazy, and it's just like corporate starvation that there's only so much you can do before people give up. And again, like Lady and the Tramp, that ended up on Disney Plus because that just didn't need to be made. I thought it was fine. They used real dogs; it was cute. But even as you said, the voice acting stuff, that we've reached this point now where like you don't need celebrities, and there's nothing wrong with the odd celebrity in a voice role.
Yeah,
if you're hiring them as an actor for a role that can do it, go for it. But when it is just, and also listen, Luke Evans pops up in this. I love Luke Evans. He's Gaston. Why is he in this for like 2 scenes? Like, again, I know it's not a shared universe. Well, maybe it is based off a weird scene in this. But when Luke Evans was, I was actually like, aren't you meant to be filming like a Beauty and the Beast prequel series scene of Josh Gad? Like, how have you ended up in here? And it's the most awful beauty green screen I've seen in a long time.
Same with Cynthia
it feels
Erivo,
like it's like, oh, you're in with Disney, guys. Do you want to jump on for a few days and help? Cynthia Erivo, obviously she's theatre trained. She can sing. That made sense. But the rest of it's just a complete mess. And normally we'd go into like favorite scenes. I don't have one.
I don't have one.
I mean, listen, I don't mind watching videos to this channel. It's fine. That's why we do a lot of them.
I do have actually a favorite scene. The favorite scene was when I finished watching this film and immediately stuck on the Guillermo Del Toro trailer for Pinocchio.
Well, this is it. And like another name that picks up. Oh dear me, I've forgotten his name. Stafflet's Flats, who's now like won BAFTAs and everything. I've forgotten his name. Jamie Demetriou. That's it. He was in Cinderella. He played the weird, not Cinderella, sorry, Cruella. He played the really like snobby store manager. Why is he in this film as well for a few scenes? Like, it's such a strange creation. And I'm being honest, I've got more questions about this film than I have answers for it. And if we're going to sort of push on into not necessarily final thoughts, but just getting this out of the system. If you really want to watch this, guys, it's only really to pad out your like. I do this like in November. Like, a new Football Manager game comes out, and I'll honestly watch like 4 films a day for about 3 days because I'm just binging Football Manager as well. And to grow it, to catch up into the films I miss across the year. And at the end of the year, half of them are online from streaming because you've been able to get them legally on Netflix and stuff. But it's always the crap ones that end up on Netflix first. And that's what I'll be catching up with. And this is what Pinocchio feels like. That, I've got to fill out this. Like, stuff like Morbius, like for an example. But this is a real low for me because not only do I think it's terribly made, terribly acted, terribly performed, there's nothing even remarkable or passable about this. There's no creative vision from a director that's not worked out. There's no issues with COVID. There's no, I feel bad for them for this. This is, if I'm being honest, just like a disgusting film to have sat through. And if you've got kids, if you're curious about showing it, maybe put on the original, maybe put on some of the live action films. Or wait until the Guillermo. I think it's December. Guillermo's is going to go on to Netflix. We'll be able to see it at the festival. If you're in London, guys, you can go buy tickets to watch it at the festival. But it's going to be. This is a film that I don't think anyone's ever going to speak about past the Razzies next year.
My kind of immediate take on the film is that there are bad films that are fun. The Room is the best example of that. It's a film that you can actually have fun with. Same with, I guess, King of the Crystal Skull. Any films that we've basically done a drink along to. There are films where they can be really bad, but they can also be really fun because you can kind of take the mick out of them and you can watch it and you can find the enjoyment in how bad it is. This film is so bad, there is no enjoyment in it. It has no life to it. It's completely soulless and just tramps on the original. It's one of those moments where in cinema you just look at it and you go, wow, every single person involved in this film kind of needs to be ashamed of themselves for what they put out there. including Disney, to the fact that they actually published this in the first place, especially on.
It's not even on the front of Disney Plus.
Day.
This was on like number 6 at the side. Like I was scrolling through the other Disney Plus Day stuff because of this. Yeah, and it's like they knew. And again, if you think, I'm not going to get to Warner Brothers because what they're doing is wrong. And maybe there are some terrible films they don't want to exist. But I look at a film like this and I think, you know what, like, if Disney has ceased this and hid this in the vaults for eternity, this shouldn't have even got past the script process. But yeah, it's final thoughts. Me mess. Don't watch. Don't.
Final
Again, if you have watched it,
it's awful.
If you have watched it, fair play to anyone that has sat through this. They weren't even giving out, like, when I say they weren't going out screen, it's like almost no one got responses from everyone we know, which was a very weird thing to hear as well. So yeah, like I said, listen, when we get screeners, it's a lovely experience. We know we're not going to get all of them. We're very grateful for what we do get, but the way it sort of works, if everyone we know isn't getting them, and when I say that, there's a lot of other outlets bigger than us, smaller than us, similar size to us. When you know about 30, 40 odd people and no one in the group chat's been assigned anything, that's when you know that there's something not right there, and this delivered upon that. But yeah, Tate, should we hand it over to them? Let them comment below their thoughts on Pinocchio. We've got Martin who says, from what you're saying, it sounds like a complete car crash. It absolutely is, Martin. Go binge Cobra Kai instead. Yeah, go watch Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, House of the Dragon. There's so much great things that are going to be an hour and 50 minutes that I'd definitely recommend investing in. So don't waste your time on this. And maybe you disagree. If you do disagree, please hit the comment button. We are curious to know your thoughts. Maybe you do enjoy this, and maybe you'll watch this in the future. Maybe the Guillermo films come out, and maybe Guillermo's is worse. It probably won't be. I'm looking forward to that. But we want to hear from you, so please do hit the like, comment button, and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, you've enjoyed this film. We will have more Disney content. As I mentioned, it's D23 this weekend. More details will pop up on the social medias when there's been announcements and when we know what time it would be if there are any videos, because it's all very last minute. And obviously, there's potentially Indiana Jones, potentially Marvel, Star Wars, who knows? But do get involved and take, what are those social medias for people to find us on?
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy. If we do an impromptu video like we did today, then you'll probably find the information on there. You can also find us on Facebook and Letterboxd. Just type in Cinema Savvy or go to the link in the description and find us there. And go to our Redbubble store where you can pick up some merch, help out the channel. Thank you, everyone.
Definitely. And what we'll plug, aside from D23, we've got a lot of things coming out. If you're looking for a less depressing film than Pinocchio, I recommend Munich. That video is going to be out this Tuesday, the 13th of September. That says everything you need to know about this Pinocchio film. So everybody at home, thank you for watching. Martin, have a lovely weekend as well. As always, we appreciate you jumping on, and enjoy, and see you all soon.